So how's it going, guys? This is Ryo Murata, photographer based in Tokyo. This is sort of like a follow-up video to my previous video, which I talked about visiting an Old Lense Fes, a limited duration, which happened in April in downtown Shinjuku. And during that sort of like excursion of just walking around this Old Lens festival, not a festival, but more like sort of like a pop-up event, instead of purchasing any like old lenses, I basically purchased a couple of items, and I thought it would be nice to sort of like mention it on my channel. And during that excursion, I basically purchased 3 items: one color negative, which is from Kodak, actually, a Gold 100, camera wrap, and in the end I will be talking about a book that I purchased from a GenkoSha. So going as fast as I can, the first up on the list is Kodak's Gold 100. I picked this up at Yamagen Camera, which, if I'm right, Yamagen Camera is located in Osaka, and they came all the way to Tokyo for this event. And thanks to them, I was able to snag a Gold 100 film stock. And normally during these types of events, I pitch in all my money from my bank account to purchase like random stuff. But fortunately enough, a guy from Berlin, actually, Andrey Goncharov, if I'm right, sorry if I got your pronunciation wrong, right? But he kind of found my Patreon account and kind of pitched in and started to support my channel, actually. And this is sort of like a shout out to him for thanking me of pitching in. And because of that, I was able to purchase a Gold 100 film negative from that sort of like expo or event, actually. So I'll stick in your like Instagram, and I basically checked his Instagram, and he has a really nice sort of like what I call photos, sort of like showcasing the quiet, I guess, lifestyle of the Berlin area, if I'm right. And he sometimes comes to Tokyo, if I'm right, and Japan to visit periodically. So yeah, big shout out to him. He also has a YouTube channel, if I'm right. So yeah, thank you for like pitching in on my and supporting my channel, because due to that, I was able to purchase a film stock from Yamagen Camera. And interesting enough about the Kodak Gold 100, if you picked up on my YouTube channel, my main standard film stock is Gold 200. And because this film channel and also my experience with shooting film isn't that long, I never had the opportunity to shoot with the predecessor of the Gold 200 120, which is this Gold 100. So yeah, this is a great sort of like product that I was able to snag during the excursion of going to that, Old Lense Fes last month. Okay, what's hilarious about this Gold 100 that I purchased from Yamagen Camera was that for all the films that they were like basically selling that were expired, it says, I don't know if you guys can pick it up on there, but it says Jukse film, which I guess in English means spoiled brat. No, not spoiled brat, but like spoiled film, or I guess ripe film. And at the bottom it says, I don't know if you guys can pick it up on there, but it says in Japanese, 色調保証は一切ございませんので自己責任でお願いします, which basically means that the color accuracy is not like insured, so please shoot this at your own responsibilities. Obviously, we all know that the longer it is expired, the color accuracy will go off or digress. And this film in particular that I was able to snag was actually produced in 2000, a millennium actually. So like roughly 25 years ago, this film was actually expired. So I basically have to consider that when shooting with this film in the future years to come. Not future years, but future dates to come. And because this is ISO 100, I will have to like shoot this at what, ISO 25 or 50 or something like that. I don't know how this is going to turn out, but thank you, Andre, for pitching into my sort of like YouTube channel, because I was able to snag a Gold 100 in it. Also, the box itself is like, it's like really undamaged, so that is quite a feat. And yeah, I must have been really lucky to snag this on that event. So yeah, that's number one on what I purchased from the Old Lense Fes. Okay, so my second item that I purchased from the Old Lense Fes that happened last month is this sort of like camera wrap that I purchased from Shoten Kobo, and I basically mentioned it on my previous video. Shoten Kobo is the largest distributor of lens mount adapters. They basically cover every single mount that is available, and they are one of the regarded sort of like mount adapter sellers in Japan. And on their booth, they were basically selling this sort of like camera wrap. This one in particular is called a camera wrap made by Astrihori. I think I made a video on them of talking about a light meter. They basically make a lot of accessories, and one of their products is their sort of like camera wraps. And I never paid attention to these types of wraps because in Japan, we all know the most expensive camera wraps made by Domke, if I'm right, those cost like $30, $40, which is a complete ripoff. And I never paid attention because it was like super expensive. But because this was being sold for $10 or less, $8 roughly, I basically had to snag this because I wanted to see how this would be like. And I have to admit, I should have popped this faster or sooner because it's much better than I thought. And if you guys do not know about camera wraps is basically a way to protect your cameras. I have a Pentax 17 right here. So basically, I was taking a B test for you guys to make, because it's hard to see right here, but you can basically put your camera on the wrap like this, and you can basically wrap it around. It doesn't look that good in front of the camera. It's taking a B test, but you can basically wrap it like this. And what's great about these types of wraps is that the size, you can basically sort of like alter the size, the dimension to fit that specific camera. So if I have a Nikon F3, it will become a little bit bulkier, but if it's like a small sort of like camera like the Pentax 17, I can basically make it in a small sort of like dimension, chuck this in a bag and won't get damaged. And what's also great about these sort of like camera wraps is that, same for the Domke, there's like this on the inner side and the outer side, there's sort of like a, not a Velcro-ish type of sort of like material, but there's no shredding sound. So you can basically, once you have it locked in there, you can basically, it won't fall out, which is kind of neat actually. And this one in particular, it won't, don't do this, but don't play with your camera, but it has enough strength so it won't like come off or anything like that unless you put enough force. But yeah, doesn't sound like Velcro, but it has sort of like a Velcro-ish type of like feel to it. But the texture is like really soft. It's like some kind of like, I don't know, cotton or something. But this is one of the things that I should have paid attention, but I was like surfacing below my radar. So yeah. And if I'm right, this one that I purchased for like $8 was, I think the dimension is 35 centimeters by 35 centimeters. It fits perfectly fine for small compact cameras such as Pentax 17, Konica C35, and I can actually manage to sort of like put Nikon F3. However, if the lens that I use is a sort of like a pancake type of lens, the 50mm 1.8 AIS. So that kind of works, but if you have anything like, let's say, a larger lens attached to a Nikon F3, this won't be enough. There's a larger version of this, 50 centimeter by 50 centimeters. So you have like two options, and this is like half the price of the Domke. So I think it was a steal actually. And also, not to mention that these types of wraps normally come in super bland, boring colors. Unfortunately, black, gray, yellow maybe. But this one in particular, because it's like has a vibrant color, once you put this in a bag, you can finally identify what's in your bag. Is that if it's this like a black color, if this was a gray color, if this is in a dark bag, I don't know where the heck this is located. So this is actually a great sort of like color scheme in my mind. So yeah, this was my second purchase that I did at the Old Lense Fes. Last but not least, hopefully this video is not too long, but I basically purchased a book by GenkoSha, sticking a BTS for you guys. Going a little bit off topic, education for you guys. GenkoSha is basically one of the oldest publishers that still exist nowadays. They were founded in 1931, before we lost World War II. That's pretty long. Like they have like an 80-90 history, if I'm right, historical background. But I was basically at their booth during the Old Lense Fes, and they had a bunch of like books, and they mostly focus on photography, illustration, and also advertising kind of related types of contents. And nowadays they make a lot of how-to types of books, and I found this a film camera start book, which kind of shook me off a ledge because I never knew about this. But this book itself is published back in 2020, so it's fairly recent, and it basically talks, it's sort of like a beginner book of how to like shoot with a film camera. I'll stick on BTS for you guys, but it kind of tells about this book itself is collaborated with a Japanese photographer, Omura Yuriko-san, which basically kind of talks about various types of film cameras that you can purchase nowadays, and also the film stocks that are available. Because this was produced or published and back in 2020, there's a couple of film stocks that are sort of like off the market shelves, but it is a really great book in gathering those knowledge of things that you don't know about when you're starting out in film. The terminologies, the words, the the sort of like, such as what's the difference between a negative, positive, macro lens, rangefinder, spool, patrone, finder, what is a half frame camera, etc., etc. And along with that, what's great about this book is that because GenkoSha specializes in also printing, actually, they're good at printing magazines, actually, it kind of gives a sample image of what kind of results what you will get if you shoot with a specific camera. And within this book, it talks about Canon Autoboy AF35M, Olympus XA, Yashica Electro 35MC, Nikon New FM2, Canon EOS7, Leica R5, Contax Aria, Rolei Flex 2.8F, Zenza S2, Pentax 645-2, Mamiya C30 330 Professional. And it basically sort of like talks about those cameras and also the travel cameras. It talks a little bit about the Konica C35 that I currently own. It kind of recommends 4 travel cameras. That's really neat. And it also talks about the different images that were shot with that specific camera, along with the settings that they used and also the film stocks that they used to shoot that image, and along with that the specific settings that they use, like Contax Aria Planner 50mm 1.4 f4 1/60th of a second, Kodak Portra 400, yada yada yada. So yeah, this is, and because they are good at publishing these types of books, the color on this is like really nice in my opinion. So yeah, that is my sort of like purchase of during the sort of like the excursion at the Old Lense Fes. And also one area that I kind of was curious about is obviously the Zenza. I can't talk much on this video, but Zenza is like, as is said to be the Japanese Hasselblad, and the price is actually going up, and I was like really curious about this camera. It shoots 6x6, and the photographer's or artist's comment is that it is pretty heavy and you'll be shocked by the shutter sound. If I'm right, it's like kind of similar to Pentax like shutter slap. It makes a huge ruckus if I'm right. And because it shoots with 6x6, you have to be careful that you get to shoot 1/3 compared to shooting with 36 exposures. So yeah. And what's rather neat is in the back of the book, it says like how to like send your films to a lab. So yeah, you can basically order it either at a lab, or you can basically send it off via mail. I guess that's being popular in North America because for some people it's like really far away to like send your negatives to a local lab. So yeah, they have that. And it also tells like you can basically like send it off to Yodobashi camera. Yellow Jacket that I basically talked about like 1 or 2 years ago. I visited them, and yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's it on talking about the film camera start book. I have to admit, like, when I looked at this, and because I do YouTube, I have to say that there's obviously someone on the opposite end who made this come true to life. There's the photographer that they had to collaborate. They had to do these sort of like what you call feedbacks, and also the printing, which probably took a considerable amount of dedication to get this to work. Obviously, when you print something like this, the colors will probably not turn out as what you expected. So they probably made a hell lot of samples. They made a lot of mistakes probably, but by looking at these photos, looking at the contents, looking at the images and the layouts, I mean, this will take me a million years if I were to do this and to pull this off, shooting with every single, camera, giving the publisher every single photos to be used in this book. That, that dedication, that patience, I had to admire the photographer for shooting all these photos, and I have to admit that I'm glad I was able to purchase this because it gives an insight on different types of cameras, what kind of results you could achieve when using different types of cameras, because in most cases point and shoots, SLRs, rangefinders come with different types of lenses, and different types of old lenses tend to have different types of characteristics. Thus, it's kind of hard to eyeball what you will get as a final image, because film is more like trial and error. You don't know until you try. But because there's these people out there who basically shoot like this book, you can get a grasp of what it will look like if you shoot with this specific configuration, this camera, this lens, and this film stock. So this was actually one of the best purchases that I did during the Old Lense Fes, and I rarely purchase these types of entry-level how-to books regarding on film, but this was really nice in my opinion. So yeah, that's basically it on my rundown of what I purchased during the Old Lense Fes back in April. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, found it informative. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments below. I'm happy to reply. And also, yeah, thanks Andrey for pitching in for my YouTube channel. I was able to purchase a Gold 100 film stock, hoping to use this in the future years to come. So yeah, we'll see you next time. Peace out.